Jake, we're live, so don't be talking about your wife now.
Welcome to the Board of Education regular working meeting, 11/19/2024 at 6 p.m. in the Wallace Central Office
Check,
Building.
check.
One, welcome and roll call. All board members are present. Two, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
A second. Do we have discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. 3, student recognition, cross-country team, and principal report, Mr. Jeremy Dodd. There you go.
And principal report.
I sure will.
It's got a science look to it.
Oh, yeah. Brought my arts and crafts with me.
Oh, he's getting professional as he's getting behind the podium.
No, yeah. I'm a podium guy. No, I made a PowerPoint that had a bunch of different things on there. Kind of just thinking about when I walk in, first thing they do is diagnose where you're at, look at all of your data, and then kind of come up with a plan. Every road trip has a destination, right? So rather than talking through all of that, I'm just going to lay that out for you guys. If you have interest in any of these things, I gave Mr. Lovell the PowerPoint with some links to each piece in there. It's got some attachments to it, but really, I think the largest thing we're doing, or the greatest thing we may be doing, is getting an understanding of the MTSS process. Or RTI is old words, I guess, we use it, but the multi-tier systems of support. We got a tremendous amount of kids who just need help getting over the hump. And what we do is we use iReady for the most part for Tier 2 instruction. So if you think about Tier 2 as being, Tier 1 is every kid in every class. Tier 2 is the kids who need just a little more help. So you might be giving them an extra 30 minutes 2 or 3 times a week in a specific subject area to kind of help push them over the edge there. A lot of that would be done through iReady, so diagnostic test that says you're weak in this area, and it comes up with a platform to build them up from there, kind of thing. Tier 3 is your most intensive version of interventions prior to getting into special education, and that is it may be 3 or 4 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes of intensive small groups, so either one-on-one or 3-to-1 kind of a ratio where you're really honing in on individual skills. Coming in, the teachers couldn't seem to grasp, for the most part, what I mean when I say individual skills, getting to that deep level. So I thought, what's one way of doing this? So we had a staff meeting, and if you're familiar with Scarborough's literacy rope, I call it the literacy tree, but the literacy rope. Gave them a bag with just these little pipe cleaners on there, some little straws. Miss Susie Fields put it all together for us, and I said, these are all the elements that it takes to make someone a skilled reader. To be a skilled reader, to do grade level reading, they have to have all of these elements. So we just went through a PowerPoint slide with them and talked about language structures, what that means, what it looks like, at what level are you taught these things. So sometimes kids from other countries come to us and they don't read left or right, maybe different. They may not turn pages a certain way. So at what point were kids taught these things? So I have an elementary background for the past several years, and I remember kids walking in having to be taught, this is how we turn our pages and things like that. So foundational pieces all the way down to vocabulary, phonics, all kinds of different things, but wherever and whenever a gap occurs, if it's a gap, there will never be a skilled reader. And so what I keep telling them is we have to find where the children were broken at, what they missed. Maybe it was absence, maybe they moved, whatever it was, we find that area, and if we hone in on that and fix that area that's broken, then they become a skilled reader. And when they started thinking of it that way, finding exactly how far down we go until we find where we had those gaps, and then we plug those gaps. We don't have to fix everything. We just need to find what's missing and fix that so it all comes together. That stimulated lots of conversations from teachers and lots of ideas and thinking, and that's going to pay off for us over time. So we're developing a system and a process where we can monitor our kids, really hone in and work with them on specific skills, building them up, and then we're just going to keep monitoring and working and adjusting as we go, kind of thing. So you guys can read the rest of that, the PowerPoint slides and things like that, but I'll answer any questions you have.
So how are you setting up time to be able to do these interventions?
That is a great question there. So we have built into our schedule roughly 40 minutes every morning. So homeroom time, they're checking with kids on grades, making sure they're moving forward and all that kind of stuff. And then they go into a 40-minute intervention class. That was already built in. It was already existing in the schedule. But everybody was doing iReady. our kids have had computers beat down their throat at this point. They are not enjoying all this computer time. They weren't using their computers appropriately. So this new Aristotle K-12 system, worth every penny, whatever it costs, because we were able to shut all that down now. I keep telling them these are textbooks. That's what they are. We use them for school. So our iReady, that was our tier 2 kids, right? But that's what they were putting everybody on. We didn't really have a tier 3 system in place. I'm looking at 60 out of 100 kids who are below grade level right now in math and reading. And so true tier 3 would be very hard to do when you're looking at a 1-to-3 ratio. So what we did was we hired some substitute teachers in. I pulled all my math teachers together and I said, I want to focus on power standards. I want to look at all the way down to first grade, and I want to build a series of problems, banks, if you will, all the way through 8th grade. And then so we built basically, we're doing our bottom 20 math and our bottom 20 reading. Sometimes they're the same kids, we had to pick. And so I've got my most skilled teachers working with my bottom 20 readers and my bottom 20 math. All right. Theoretically, it could be 60, but I don't have that time. So what I've got, those 20, they are starting with a pre-test at first grade level. They pre-test, they teach for, if they pass that pre-test, then we move on. We're looking at 80% as our marker, all right? If they don't get 80% in the whole group of them, then we're gonna teach that first grade content. Because again, it might not be that they can't do third grade content, it's they got stuck right here and it reappears later on down the way. And so the systematic thought processing not there. So if they pass the pre-test, we'll move on to the next grade level and pre-test there. Whenever they stopped passing those tests is where we start teaching at. Reality, second grade, all 3 grade levels, all 3 math classes started with a second grade test. It's not an easy test, but what we're finding is the rigor of the standards, the way the tests are made these days, our kids haven't been exposed to that, so to speak, so we're doing a lot of training. I'm not having teachers stand up and doing a bunch of lessons. They're working the problems with the kids in small groups. Here's how we solve these problems. Here's what you're looking for. And then they will reassess on Friday at the end of the week, see if they can get that 80%. If so, now we're going to move up to the next grade level. We're going to keep doing that. If we're broken at second grade, trying to teach 8th grade during that intervention time is going to get me nowhere. So I'm starting from foundational and building up, plugging the gaps.
You touched on one of my questions, I guess. My history is typically that kid that's bad in English or behind in English is also behind in math.
Right.
So did I hear you right? You're making a choice you're picking one of those and you're trying
As
to
it
move
stands, because our schedule has that block at the beginning, so a lot of times they're weak in both areas. So yeah.
What's the plan to come back and touch base on the other subject?
Well, in theory, I'd love, so we have basically 4 times a year. The plan is going to be 4 different times per year. We look at our interventions and make a judgment call on our kids using our data. Are they making good progress? Have they moved forward enough? So we kind of have a map for what it'll look like in the future, and then you have the system here to where we're going to go through. So making good progress, no progress, questionable progress, whatever that might be. Hopefully they exit the one intervention and we can start them in the other. But right
So
now,
you've got built in there that they could come in midstream?
just on different intervals. So we're looking at like the end of each quarter. But right now we really just got started. So we're looking probably at the end of February would be the next reporting period where we have fully gone through a series with MTSS and look at each kid at that point and say, yeah, they made great progress. I think they're okay. Let's move to the next piece if they need it. Some of them don't. Some are just, specific to math. But the reality is we need a system in place here also for identifying children for special education services. As it stood, my estimation of how things go right now is if if a child had a learning disability, it would be ultimately up to a parent or a teacher to say, I think this kid needs tested. But no foundational where we've worked with this kid and shown that we've really tried to get to make that adequate progress. So this would be a new system leading up to that as well.
One other one, no, shut up. Hargis and I have talked before about like summer school being effective. When I'm listening to you, I would think tier 3 sounds like the way our summer school ought to be.
Maybe. I haven't got that far
Just wondering, I'm thinking, and I know you're busy and I know
Oh,
stuff's
you're right.
coming at you like a machine gun, but the sooner we might get an idea of how we could help you fund summer school to do something like that, I'm betting you'd get head nods from this group. That, to me, that sounds like where we would see people getting value out of middle school instead of just recovery of a loss of something.
That's typically how summer school's been done, right? Okay, you failed 2 or 3 classes, now you have to make it up so you can move to the next grade level. But can we use that time to plug the gaps that are missing?
I guess that would be
That
my
would be-
question.
yeah.
Would you see that as
I
valuable?
would love to see that, because we all know everybody slides in the summer anyway, right? What about the kid who's already down here? They're sliding too.
Yeah.
You know, whereas these guys, maybe they're going to the children's museum in the summertime and getting exposed to other things, and these guys are not, so the gap gets wider. So yeah, if we could find a way to interest them, incentivize it, to have them come in and work through these skills. I mean, and we, you know, we're open and honest with kids. You know, yeah, we're doing this at this particular grade level, doesn't mean anything. All right, we're just getting better. But yeah, that could hurt. But yeah, no, we just look at it individual kids. You have to start somewhere. Is this true tier 3? Probably not, because the group is too large. But it's pretty deep knowledge base that we're working and going through with. So,
Well, I applaud you. I think it's the best I've heard of what we've been doing for years. So, thank you.
Are the interventions classes every day?
yeah. Yeah, every other Friday, we do club days. So that interferes a little bit. There's social emotional lessons that we kind of build in as well. I'm teetering that line between going, nothing interferes with MTSS and the need for those things too. So if a teacher asks me, I say nothing interferes with MTSS. If they don't, I'm letting them make that choice right now. So some weeks it's 3 days they have it, some weeks it's 4 or 5 days,
Okay.
depending on.
Awesome.
But yeah, until and again, we'll monitor, we'll make our adjustments. Until I know for sure it's fully effective in what we're doing, I'm not gonna hard press. So,
Okay, thank you.
What's everybody looking at me for? I just got 2 quick questions for you.
yes, sir.
Did I understand you right when, I think you might have answered the question if I understood it right, they're already a quarter way in before you catch these children?
This, when you say, Bruce,
How soon can you catch those children?
so what I'm trying to do is create a system to where how they end this year is how they start next year.
Okay.
So I'm walking in right now and just looking at all the data and building this system in place. So now, in theory, at the end of this year, where they're at, is how they're going to start. So day 1 of next year, they're placed, and they can test their way out, things of that nature. But they stay in until they test their way out.
And if they was able to back this down, say a building to the upper, how much would that help you? And how soon could we get those children caught up?
Well, obviously, they're not coming to me proficient and walking out novice. It is obviously a system-wide concern for us, developing literacy and math skills across the board. So anything we do down there is going to do nothing but help us here. Currently, I mean, we think about our 8th graders going up to high school next year, right? This is the first time they're getting this intervention, and yes, they are at the 2nd grade level in the math right now. Our reading has been a little more difficult to systematically work through, because kids, even though they're within the same standards, are at different places within that standard, so we're trying to maneuver that one a little bit. Again, that's part of adjusting based upon what we're doing daily. But obviously, if I'm just getting them here and I'm building them up from 2nd grade and I get them to 5th grade before they go to high school, I'm still giving them novice kids. So yes, you are thinking correctly as far as systematically building from the bottom up. I can't speak to those schools and what they have. I just know first thing I do is diagnose and then try to start attacking the problems.
Is there more we
High
can
school,
do?
they would typically.
I'm sorry, you had another question. Go ahead, you had another question?
Go ahead, Ms. Berger.
Oh, is there more we can do to help you, to support you in this work? I mean,
It's so new right now what
do
we're
you
doing.
need a helper? Do you need?
We're working the problem right now. It's hard to, as you know, problems come up daily, and you just diagnose and work your way through. It is a systematic issue. We are working our way. I am sharing the data that I'm finding down with the upper elementary, like when we did those tests and whatnot, and shared the rigor of that test. It was not an easy test by any means, even though it was 2nd grade. Those questions, you no longer just have an addition problem lined up. You have to solve it like 3 different ways to get to the right answer. So each problem is like 4 different answers. And if you miss one, you're missing them all. And that's part of why we're having novice performances on our math and our reading. It's because of the rigor of those type of things. We're just not been exposing the kids to them, I don't think.
Yeah.
So we're doing that now, and it's taking us time. So yeah, part of what you probably just heard was we're teaching them how these tests are designed. Because if the first time they see something like that, it blows their mind.
Sure.
I can solve this problem, but I don't want to solve 5 of those problems. I'm not sure if I'm actually doing it right anymore. They just start questioning everything. So exposure.
It's difficult. I've tried to help Izzy on a couple and I failed for her. But you know what, take it back. Like, yeah.
Mr. Dodd, a quick answer on a quick question here.
Yes, sir.
What's the correlation between, okay, you get these children. What's the correlation of them being able, on their reading, if you handed them a book, you touched on every child learns different.
Right.
I'm a huge proponent of books. What's the correlation of that child's reading affecting that child's math? Because does that child know how to find that problem to work in the book? What's the correlation with that? Quick answer.
Significant. Every math test, including down to 2nd grade, has a bunch of word problems in it. Kid can't read, they're not necessarily going to understand what they're seeing even for math. A lot of times if you ask a kid a problem orally, they can actually work it out for you. But if you give it to them on paper, they can't. And they knew how to do it the whole time. And so, yeah, it is significant. Literacy is the greatest need for every kid building up through math. You look at the ACT, it's nothing but a reading test. Even the math part, the science part, it's all a giant reading test.
Thank you, very informative.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. 4 public comments. 5 board member comments. Becky?
We have informally talked about having our December meeting on the 5th, and I just kind of wanted to make sure we're on board with that. I think it would be at 5. We talked about looking at test scores, kind of getting into the data. Just want to make sure we're all on board with that. Do we want the principals? Do we just want Mr. Jury and Mr. Arvin? What do we need for that meeting if we're all aligned?
Ms. Bergen, and at that meeting, if that's all we're gonna do, board chair's okay with it, I think that's all we ought to do at that meeting is data, unless we come up with something emergency. But something else I'd mentioned to you before I would like to see in that, our one program that's over at the school that we started, I'd like to see the raw data on that. We know how many students is in there, but I'd like to also touch on that data to see how that program, get more in-depth on how that program's going also.
Okay.
And that way it lets us know going into, right, because probably February, we'll start looking at the numbers, see if we need to throw somebody else on that end, if it's working, to
We
help
talked
that
about
load
Angie
there.
Lewis's program.
And what you'd ask Mr. Dodd there,
Yeah.
if you want somebody, please tell me. I already wrote John's summer school. I need to get with our finance director, see if we can afford that, John.
So do we want the principals
You
to
just blew
attend
my budget out of the
on
water,
December 5th?
please.
Is it regular board meeting, 5 o'clock?
Yes,
5 o'clock.
Uh,
Yep, it's just, and that's all we'll have on that agenda.
yes.
I think I would like them to be there because I think what they're doing to address the test scores is probably more relevant to me than what our test scores are.
That's,
Yeah, that
we
makes
know
sense.
we're not in the red, so let's see what we're doing to get to the next color, other than buying a.
And they don't
pack of
need a big
crayons.
song and dance. We don't need a
No.
presentation, just
Just here to answer
question,
questions
yeah.
that we'll
question-
have when we go
Question
through.
and answer.
Yep. Good?
Sounds good, that's all I got.
Is that fair? Mr. Dodd, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I was making notes back.
Uh,
That's okay. No, that's fine. That's good. That's all I got, thank you.
Okay. Ashley? No. John?
Got a couple of things that have been brought up to me that I would just like us to think about somewhere down the road. Talked to the YMCA over at Vivi. They have an interest in expanding the number of places that use their swimming facility, partly because they're having trouble paying for it. So they would be open to some type of swimming agreement for pay, obviously with Gallatin County. I would like to see administration, PE teacher, or athletic director give us some thought of whether or not that would be something we would want to pursue. Same thing, I've had some questions on salaries on extracurriculars that I think we probably, when we do salaries again, we probably need to look at that. So,
Baseball,
I think all of our minor sports, whatever's considered minor, not your big money-making sports have probably fallen behind. So not that we need to do anything at this particular moment, but by the time we have a salary schedule for next year, I think we need to have looked at how do we address that. We've also had the question of middle school sports to give a feeder system for some of those. So I think we just need to look at those a little bit in depth and see what we can do to help our programs a little bit.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
Hargis?
Madam Chair, I just got one or two things here. I'll hit them now. That way we ain't gonna talk about them when we get on down in the consent agenda. Mr. Dodger, principal, you're here tonight. I'm not necessarily picking on you. You just happened to show up. I've asked this 100 times. I guess Jake's training wasn't effective or something. What's the only reason you can go into closed session on your site-based councils?
We're discussing, hiring, things of that nature.
What else?
Put me on the spot here.
Here's y'all an acronym. LLP, Legal Land Personnel.
I gave him a copy of the list, so he's got a copy of the list. I mean,
Oh.
yeah, he probably just can't remember off the top of his head.
Can somebody explain to me, like I said, this ain't you, you just happen to be here tonight. John's been there before, he knows. It ain't personal. How to implement the best way to redo school policies, and who wants to be on the committees, how to do the school move forward with students that wanna go virtual. Can anybody explain to me how that goes into closed session?
I would think students wanting to go virtual, you're talking about individual students. I think that would be closed session, wouldn't it? Jake, no? When you're mentioning kids' names?
You don't
No.
really mention though, you could talk about,
If you do
Yeah.
mention kids' names, you would go into.
That's what was discussed.
the only time we've
So,
ever with
was your training
students
that
though was
ineffective?
during expulsions.
Here, but he's talking about site-based, I
Shouldn't have
think.
been.
Yeah.
That's all I had, Madam Chair. But I am gonna say something. That's the first, that was the best site-based meeting minutes that I've seen since I've been on this board. The way that they was done this time, where we could see the attachments, see what you all was talking about and stuff. I did read through them.
And that wasn't the middle school, I don't think you were addressing.
No.
So he's like, so.
It's a high school.
Okay.
High school's very in-depth.
No, we looked at how the agendas were being used in the website
Mhm.
before, and it just seemed very limiting, it was difficult, took a lot of time to go through, so I think we're all probably following the
It's
same
nice.
format now.
That was probably some of the best site-based council meetings, so that part of Jake's training took effect. I just didn't understand what we paid him for if he couldn't get you all to understand what a
Hey,
closed session
Oh,
was.
I can tell how to do it. I can't make them do it. That's my excuse.
That's all I got, Madam
All
Chair.
right, and I don't have anything at this time. Moving on to 6 staff school reports, student board member, Mr. Landon Johnson.
Yeah, I don't have much. Just in the high school, I guess all the sports, the seasons are changing, so the fall sports are pretty much wrapped up or really close to that. The blue and white game for basketball was just this past few days, I think, Monday.
Friday.
And so that switches it into basketball, winter sports getting started. And the fall ball, the little dance they do at the end of the year each year. People have loved that, and the student council has finally gotten that planned out, and they're starting to sell tickets now. So
Nice.
You got a date?
I don't know it. It just
We
came
want a
out,
full,
like,
we want a full
it just
report
came
for
out
the next meeting.
yesterday. I'm sorry, I wasn't here. I was at Western doing my interview.
I think he meant, is anybody
Pretty
going
good.
with you?
Yeah, do you have?
Oh,
a-
do
have
I
a
have
date?
a
You
date?
have- Have you obtained a date yet?
No, I do not. I do not.
Okay.
Well, you
Still
need to
working
get
on
on
that?
Wolf over here. I don't know.
Full report by December.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you got, what, a few weeks to get that taken
Couple
care of?
I don't know. I don't know if we will, guys. 'Cause I don't know if this is a board topic.
Good answer.
Well, let me get us
You're
back on
learning
agenda,
quick.
good job.
And then he has he said one of my things from student council is already getting brought up, so
Awesome,
I think I'm good.
alright. B, enrollment attendance report, Eddie,
I'll just take off here.
You guys have a copy of that attendance report, couple ebbs and flows, kind of like normal. couple big classes, third grade's booming. Couple of the high school classes, middle school, eighth grade, pretty big, but we do have a big third grade class. So. Other than that, you can see a couple ticks up, couple ticks down, but attendance is down just a little bit with the time of year, with sickness and things like that. So nothing glaring in that report. That's all I got.
The only thing I got on that, you can mention that third grade all you want. I heard that from the last person in your position. They had a big kindergarten class. Your numbers hit, his didn't. Just saying.
Big number, that's awesome.
All right, CAO report, Mr. Tony Jury.
The more I learn about Mr. Johnston, the sharper I think he is. He's pretty.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're in the middle of our needs assessment and our district improvement plan. We had a community event. We had some community members show up, so it was good, and we had the teams from each of the schools show up. Landon was there, and he shared some input with us. It was a great night. We're going to concentrate on how to make that better in the future. We got some feedback from the people there. Some of the people there say have it during the day because, they're representing businesses. They can come during the day, and then we have parents that says keep it at night. So we're probably going to have two moving forward at 2 different times. And the biggest feedback we got from the people there was we need to create more avenues for people to get involved. And they really appreciated it. They were blown away by the presentation that the schools brought. They set up their tables and had their instructional materials laid out, and they explained things like Mr. Dodd did tonight. Those were the kind of conversations we had with the community folks. So it was a really good night, and had some really good feedback. So moving forward, we're going to do some more of that. And speaking of the CDIP, as soon as we get that done, I'm going to put it out for a 2-week review before I bring it to you guys. And if the board members, the next meeting is December 5th. That's the last one before January?
No, we have
Okay.
one
We have a business, yeah.
19th.
The 19th. Okay, so that'll give us time to get that 2-week review in. Probably in on the 18th, and then I'll have it ready for you on the 19th, so it'll be on the next board agenda. When we come back from Thanksgiving break, we'll do our next round of iReady testing, and I'll have that ready for you at the 19th meeting as well. So we'll see how we're going on that. So that concludes what I had tonight, unless you all have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jury, real quick, no question. I'll get with you that way on that. What we're talking about there is we got money sitting there on aviation, and where we're gonna put the UAV program in and present to you all the things. We could come out with a way to spend that so he don't lose it at state.
That's good. All right, D, Superintendent Report, Mr. David Arden.
Just a couple of quick points. Number one, just thoughts and prayers to everybody that's been involved. There's been a couple tragic accidents in the county within the last week, and so just small area like this, that's a lot. So I know that's probably on a lot of people's minds. Had a Gaga pit that we put in out behind the upper elementary. If you don't know what that is, just come by sometime during recess, and you will see it full of children actively learning and figuring out how to play Gaga ball. So it's very fun. It was kind of a wasted area of the playground out there. Theirs was a little sparse anyway, so they're loving it and having a great time. And unfortunately, a teacher had to burst a kid's bubble once it got put up because they thought it was a boxing ring. And so they had to say, no, we're not doing third grade boxing during recess. So, but they're really enjoying that. Snow planting is well underway. Mr. Bushelman is tackling some of that and just making sure everything's laid out and organized as we see some of that coming up in the forecast. I noted in my email to you guys on Friday that I participated in the high school blood drive, and just encourage people to do that. Reason being, I received a text this morning from the Kentucky, whatever the organization is, but that the blood that I gave on Friday was utilized today, so it was given to somebody today. So Just never really set in with me that it could happen that fast or be used that quickly. So kudos to all the students and people that were able to participate in that. You know, we had great Veterans Day celebration last week and the district improvement planning meeting. And it's just great to see the community on campus when we can do those things. And that's the type of, you know, just a fire truck, not because of a fire, but because of a club being out in front of the middle school today, just being able to continue to look to do things to get the community involved and on this campus. Participating with things is something I want to make sure we continue to work toward. I want to give a shout out to Coach Tim Browning, who announced his retirement from football, not teaching, but from coaching. He has coached in this district for over 25 years. Called him earlier just to make sure he was okay, that I shared that at a meeting, that he had met with his team and realized that he used to coach girls basketball amongst some other things, and even coach volleyball for a year. So, but he has been the only coach in program history, the 19 years of existence. So want to make sure we thank Coach Browning for all the time and commitment and just love that that he has put into Gallatin County football. So, and just the last note, we're continuing to work on gathering information about town bus service. We've actually, you know, reached out to about as many people as we could think to reach out to. We will probably put a small ad in the paper with a QR code, just to hopefully make it easier to get that link in front of people in town to take the survey, and really just want people to understand that the more people that fill this out gives us the best amount of information so we can make the best and most accurate decision possible. So just really encourage people to fill that survey out if they have not already done so when they see that. So that is all I have.
So I saw we're hiring for bus drivers. Are we down? Or are we just even, or kind of where are we?
I think we've still had a couple spots not filled. I think right now we probably have, I'd say, at least 1 to 2 openings that we need currently. So, and if we wanted to add town bus service, that would obviously, you know, require a need for a few more.
Mr. Orban,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, do you have any, I just said, anybody else have any questions?
We're gonna be hosting the Governor's Cup, I believe.
I saw that mentioned. I've not been contacted by whoever's in charge of it, but I hope we do, and if we are, we'll make sure we do a great job.
Middle school playground. That's something we've been looking at over, that's something I'd like to, maybe if we get some numbers for us on. I know it's gonna be expensive. I'm in the wrong end of this business when it comes to playground equipment. And Madam Chair, I meant to do it under board member comments. I'd like to add item 8E on the agenda to move forward on a superintendent search and have it completed by December 17th.
So we're amending the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. I want to apologize for it. I meant to do it at the beginning, and I thought, well, I'll do it under board member comments, and so before I forget about it again.
Okay.
Do we need to go through a motion to
Yeah, that's a motion to amend, it's gotta have a second.
I guess I second that then.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. I vote. All right. Items E and F, did we all get a chance to look at those? Yeah, any questions? Okay. Moving on to 7, consent agenda. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna get into it tonight. I've touched on it with you all. The field trips, out of hand,
Field trips or
or
fundraisers?
excuse me, fundraisers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, a whole lot of them.
Motion to approve consent?
The one out of
Second.
district,
Yeah, but that you're approving the,
what they said. I thought so. Just wanna make sure.
do I have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving moving on to H, nope, that's in consent, excuse me. 8, recommended action, new business. A, review approve the CETS offer for the 2025.
How much we matching on that this year, real quick?
You're on the
Mr.
spot,
Level?
David.
16 or 14?
14.
Yeah.
500, I think.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Goes down every year.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Item 8B, review approve frontline time and attendance proposal. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
So when will this take effect?
So we will obviously get working on it as quick as possible with hopes by, if we can get it up and going by January to kind of do a trial run for the month of January with hopeful rollover by February.
So will it be like a badge swipe?
Yes.
You're swiping in, you're swiping out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anytime you leave the building, you swipe out, if you're going to lunch, if you're going to run an errand?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is for certified and classified, correct?
Yes, that is for all employees,
In
including
and out.
in and out,
Okay.
including
And Jody marked that in a minute.
including everybody over here in the board office too. We'll do
Yep.
the same thing.
That's my next
Perfect.
question. Okay, good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Item C, review approve KEV program.
Madam Chair, I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll
I would-
second, but I don't recall what CAD is.
Okay.
Well, I would just, if I can, just say one thing. So I, didn't get it done before it got on the agenda. I did have 2 corrections, so I've given the corrections to David. Those are being made, so the motion should be to approve the corrected contract. If you recall, there was like a 15-page user
Oh,
agreement or something.
For
So there's
CAD.
there's 2 tweaks to that. So you're, I don't know which one you looked at, but you're approving the correct one. They were both legal, minor legal issues.
But you did get the tweaks done?
Yes.
Okay.
But I know what you tweaked.
I figure if I didn't catch it, you would have.
Do we have any other questions or discussion on, did we answer your question?
No, so what is CAD?
So that was the one that's gonna help streamline, some of the accounting
Okay, yeah.
processes, minimize cash, allow us to do some of the digital payments ourselves,
Right.
not have to
okay,
use
got it.
somebody outside to
And then
take care of
his
those
accounts it
things.
goes to.
Yes.
Pretty nice.
Will that eliminate the dollar charge on
Yes.
tickets?
We won't have to use that at all. We can actually do it ourselves.
This program takes everything, all payments. What will reduce is the cash that the secretaries have to collect. We think it'll increase sales for like the Wildcat, what is the name of that store?
Emporium.
yeah.
Because people will be able to pay digital. It should increase concession sales because people will be able to use their cards. And all of those swipes go directly to the bank account.
And that was another one thing that spoke with Landon about before the meeting was student council was requesting something like that for something that they were doing, a fundraiser that they had. So I told him that was in the works.
If you didn't look at the stuff in detail, it also, all the field trip fees, all student fees, it'll be a link on our website where all parents can go. There will be a separate link for the public. If grandparents wanna donate or pay for something, they'll be able to go and do that without seeing any student information or anything within the school.
And you're 100% okay with that program?
I am, a lot of the people who are right now using school bucks, which we got presented to us also, are switching from school bucks to KEV because KEV is like a one-stop shop. We don't have to have something separate for sports and field trips and the school money. It can all go through here. The only question I haven't asked specifically is the book fair money, but I think if each school will have its own card swiper, and I think the book fair's money can go through there too. But I just have to have that verified.
So it almost eliminates a teacher having to come over here bringing money?
Yes.
We will still accept cash. In our community, I don't think we can tell our people no cash, but we're hoping that Jody won't have to count a bunch of money every day. That's kind of what that will relieve.
If you don't have the number, I'm just out of curiosity, how much was we paying a year in ticket sales on your other program we was using?
I do not know that number. I know it was $1 so it just depended on however many ticket sales we had.
Okay, like I said, I didn't know if you might have the
I
number on
don't
top
have
of your
that
head or
number.
nothing.
I know that this percentage is much smaller, and at the end of the year, we get a portion of what they withheld comes back to the school. So it's, a lot of the schools are moving from the other programs to this one, and they've been doing it for many years, so.
You said him, Nick.
I think Becky did.
Parker's motion, Becky second.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Five oh. Item D, discussion approval to purchase forklift.
Is this
You
gonna
wanna do it?
save us
You want me
money?
to do it?
Just do a quick
I give y'all a
rundown.
whole spiel on this.
Yeah, just do a quick rundown of.
Quick rundown, we paid for the forklift. The forklift was, I ain't gonna give you exact numbers here, around 63,000, and I'd have to think about it for a minute. But 63,000 some change for a new one. We can get it for, brand new one for 30-something thousand. We're spending 12,000 or something to send the buses off, get the radiators changed. 8,000 or something that is the labor on it, where we can be doing that in-house. Well, we've already spent in radiator, we've already done 2 this year with 16,000, the ones we done last year. And over the next 2 years, we're looking at a minimum have to do 4 in those buses. So what we'll save in the labor cost of sending them out will pay for that forklift, and then they'll also be able to use it multi-use. I did look at the tractors of maybe getting a big one. I said something about the skid steer, we put a snow box on it. But with the forklift, they can do the barrels, do the other things, and it wasn't the equipment, it was the size of it, and being able to move it in that bus garage and move it around in there safely with, when you had other buses in there. You couldn't do it with tractor, couldn't do it with skid steer, once you put the buses and things in that garage to work on them.
I move we approve.
Second.
I can keep talking.
All right, Becky, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 8E superintendent search.
Madam Chair, I shall move to move forward on this and have it completed by December 17th.
Second.
But, so I will, two
Yes, you
things.
will.
Two things. So I mean, are you saying do it in-house, so not KSBA, that's one, decision?
In-house.
And the second one is, you're doing it in-house, I can't guarantee it's gonna be done by December the 17th, but we will do our best to, you know.
Why not? They give you
Moving forward.
15 days to advertise it, and then they give you during the advertisement, they can get their committee set up, because by law.
But I mean, you
I
gotta work
found
with
no
everybody's
gray
schedule, I mean, Tom said we'll do it ASAP.
They're on our time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, you've got to.
Let's shoot for
you got-
December 17th, and if we
If you
come
don't
back
get a
and think we're
minority
at,
on,
we
if
can.
you don't have minority reps on us, you gotta go have a second minority election. There's just some things. So I'm saying, if you're doing it in-house, I'll do my best to meet your timeline. But
Jake,
I'm
we
not
really
guaranteeing
appreciate that.
it. Okay.
We know you'll do your best.
All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. 9, adjourn. Motion?
Not me.
I'll make a motion with
Have some
Jeremy.
more fun.
I don't wanna break the chain. John motion, come on, Ashley.
Ashley, God, all in favor?
Aye.
Nice.